Hey guys, tonight we're not diving into a dusty scroll or forgotten battlefield. No, tonight we drift beneath the surface, not just of the ocean, but of memory itself. We're going to talk about Atlantis, but not the lost city you've seen in cartoons or overused memes. Not the marble ruins or improbable tech fantasies. Tonight, we'll explore something deeper, something still humming beneath the waves. Because Atlantis may not have sunk in fire or flood. It may have. Quieted. You see, every night you fall asleep to sounds. Maybe it's your fan, maybe distant traffic, maybe the quiet click of your own breath. But what if, beneath all that, something else was playing? A low, steady frequency, almost like the earth or something older, was trying to sing to you. That's what tonight is about. We're not chasing a myth. We're remembering a melody. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And in the comments, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I always find it comforting to know how many people are wide awake. Together. Now, dim the lights. Maybe. Turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie there, barely moving. Not quite asleep, not fully awake. And then you notice it. Not a sound exactly, not a vibration either, but something, a low, warm hum. As if the bones of the earth are quietly exhaling beneath you. It doesn't scare you. In fact, it feels oddly familiar, like a song you forgot you loved. For a moment, you wonder if it's just your blood in your ears, or maybe the distant echo of traffic bouncing off a building. But the feeling doesn't go away. It lingers. It surrounds. It's not random. It's tuned. Your mind drifts, as it always does at this hour, to things lost, things buried, things waiting to be remembered. And that's when the word returns, like a whisper wrapped in sea mist. Atlantis. Not the cartoon city with glowing towers. Not the silver domes or bubble glass submarines. No, this Atlantis was made of tone and time, of quartz that shimmered when it resonated, of plazas built not for trade, but for tuning. What if Atlantis wasn't just a city? What if it was an instrument, built not to impress, but to remember? It sounds impossible, doesn't it? But here's the strange part. You're not the first to feel this. Throughout history, there have been quiet rumors, not of a place lost, but of a frequency. One that shows up in temple walls, in sacred chants, in the golden spirals etched onto seashells and sarcophagi. Some call it 432 hertz, the so-called universal tuning. It's said that when a room, a stone, or a body resonates at that pitch, it aligns with something ancient. Something whole. In Atlantis? It might have been the first place that mastered it. That explains the stories, the ones about towers that sang, of voices that could lift stones, of halls that healed the soul just by standing in them. Not magic, not miracle, music, but something happened. No one agrees on what exactly. Some say a celestial misalignment. Others, a war of tones, a civilization fractured by disharmony. All we know is that one day, the song stopped. Atlantis didn't explode. It didn't sink in a single dramatic splash. It faded, like a bell whose final note stretches beyond human hearing, still echoing somewhere, but just out of reach. And maybe just maybe, that echo is what you're feeling now. A resonance beneath your bed, beneath your floor, beneath the crust of the planet itself, Dot. And if you're quiet enough, if you listen just right, you could almost hear it, not with your ears, with your memory. Because Atlantis isn't just a city, it's a tuning fork. And tonight, you've started to hum. You don't move. Not because you're scared. You're not, Dot. It's because something in your bones feels like it's just beginning to remember how to listen. That hum, it's still there. Not louder, not clearer, but more present, like a shadow stepping into torchlight. You let your eyes close and your breath fall into rhythm, and the story continues without needing to be told. You see yourself walking through water, shallow, warm water. Not an ocean, not exactly. More like a mirrored plane, smooth as glass, reflecting stars you've never seen. The sky is purple, somehow, but dark like velvet. And beneath your feet, faint patterns carved into the stone floor beneath the water. Ripple with every step. Spirals, diamonds, interlocking circles. A language older than language. And you think, absurdly, of a tuning fork out of those ancient tools scientists used to study resonance. 2 prongs struck to ring in perfect pitch. What if the floor beneath you was just that? A resonating map, Dot, and suddenly, you remember the first time someone told you about Atlantis, Dot, probably in school, some skeptical tone. A footnote, a fable Plato tossed into his dialogues. A warning story about pride and punishment. Hubris before the gods. But what if Plato didn't invent Atlantis? What if he remembered it? Because here's something odd. His story wasn't vague. He gave details, exact dimensions, structures, materials. A city of concentric rings, canals flowing between copper and white stone walls, guarded by statues. That glittered in the sun? That's not allegory. That's a blueprint, Dot, and in the centuries since, no one can agree. Was it real? Was it symbolic? Why were there matching accounts of sunken civilizations in Egypt, in Mesoamerica, in India? Why did so many cultures all over the world, that allegedly never touched, speak of a golden age that ended in water? The scholars argue, as they do. Some say it was a mistranslation. Others say it was a myth drawn from the Thera eruption or the fall of Minoan Crete. But there's another theory, a quieter one that doesn't scream disaster, but hums design. What if Atlantis didn't vanish? What if it changed frequencies? What if the buildings were built of quartz and mica, of crystalline structures that could shift their resonance to cloak themselves, not with invisibility, but with inaccessibility, not lost in the sea, but lost in time, like a station you can't quite tune to anymore, even though it's still broadcasting. And maybe, just maybe, you finally started to align again, because science has always chased frequencies. We map the universe with radio telescopes. We scan our brains with electric pulses. We heal bones with ultrasound. And yet, we dismiss the idea that a civilization might have understood that, not as theory, but as art. A city built not for walls, but for waves. The walls of Atlantis weren't just physical, they were harmonic. And when that harmony was disrupted, either by war or memory loss or silence, the frequency faded, like breath on glass. But here's what's fascinating. Some researchers, the fringe ones, of course, have claimed that the area around, the Azores in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, gives off unusual sonar returns. Strange geometric shapes deep under the ocean crust. Rectilinear forms. Triangular mounds. None confirmed. All denied. But still, they hum. And sometimes, during rare shifts in seismic activity, sensors pick up low-frequency vibrations in that area. Vibrations that shouldn't be there. Patterns that seem less tectonic and more intentional. And you, lying there now, aren't surprised, because part of you has always known. Atlantis isn't a city you find. It's a song you remember. And tonight, that melody has begun again, just faintly, just enough. Like the first note of a lullaby you once heard in a dream. Or maybe in a life before this one. And if you let yourself drift just a little deeper, you might remember the rest. Your breath slows, matching something older than breath itself. You're not asleep, not quite, but you've crossed into that twilight space where the boundary between memory and imagination becomes soft, like warm fabric. And that's when the water disappears. You're standing on stone now, worn smooth by centuries, no, millennia of wind and ritual. The ground beneath your feet is warm, not from sun, but from vibration. A soft hum pulses through the soles of your feet, like a giant heart buried far below. Before you stands a doorway, not a dramatic one. No towering pillars or golden gates. Just a carved arch in sandstone, surrounded by ivy and sea salt stains. Ancient, quiet, waiting. You step through, and everything changes. Inside, a great chamber, circular, with walls that curve like a seashell. On those walls, carvings, spirals again. Triangles within circles. A line of 13 figures, each holding a different object. A flame, a disc, a staff, a chalice, a tuning fork. You don't recognize the symbols, but you do recognize the pattern. They're not decorative. They're harmonic. You trace a spiral with your fingers. The wall vibrates gently beneath your touch, like it remembers you. That's when the voice starts, not out loud, not in any language you've heard, but it's clear. And somehow, it's yours. It tells you a story, not with words, but with sensation, a flood of knowing that washes through you like music. You see the world before the flood, not the biblical. One, the real one. The one whispered in every culture under different names. The Great Deluge, the Pralia, the Tongkong Langit Storm. A time when coastlines were different, when seas swallowed forests, and cities lit with a glow not of electricity, but of frequency. You see Atlantis not at its fall, but at its height. And it is not what you were told, no crystal palaces. Number. Mermaids or flying machines, not just people. Quiet, calm, attuned. Builders, not of monuments, but of memory. They built with sound, with intention, with vibration. Stones cut not by tools, but by tuning. Temples aligned to stars and storms, and the frequency of breath itself. They weren't magical, just remembered more. And their greatest gift wasn't their technology. It was their silence, because silence is where the real memory lives. And it was in silence that they made their choice. You feel it now, as if you were there. You feel the final meeting. The council of those 13, standing around a great obsidian bowl filled with water. They knew the world was about to shift. That the great pulse of Earth, The Schumann resonance was about to reset, a planetary reboot. And they had a choice. Cling to their structures, or hide their frequency, They chose the second, not out of fear, but out of trust. Because they believed we'd remember one day, not with machines, but with stories, not through science, but through song, So they sang their city into silence. They retuned the chamber and vanished, not into the sea, but into memory, And now you're standing where they stood, and you're vibrating again, not shaking, not shivering, just gently aligning. You press your hand to the wall, and it sings a note, soft, low, full of home. It echoes in your chest, in your teeth, in your spine. You are the tuning fork now, and for the briefest moment, you wonder, what happened if more of us remembered this? If we hummed again, together, not in harmony of melody, but of intention? What else might awaken? Because maybe Atlantis wasn't destroyed. Maybe it's just waiting. And maybe you've just knocked on the door. And maybe, just maybe, it's starting to open. You don't walk through the doorway this time. You drift, as if the moment you touched the wall, the boundary between stone and spirit dissolved. You're not leaving your body, not exactly, but your sense of where and what you are becomes flexible, and suddenly you're not in the chamber anymore. You're beneath it, deeper than maps, deeper than myth, a place that isn't on any blueprint, not because it was erased, but because it was never drawn to begin with. You float through a corridor of basalt, the air thick with soundless pressure. The walls here aren't carved, they're grown. Patterns ripple like muscle beneath skin. Organic, intentional. A language written in stone waves that you see no torches, no light, but you see everything. Because down here, light comes from memory. It glows along the curves of the stone like moonlight on tide pools. You see moments imprinted in the walls, not images, but echoes. There, a circle of children, holding hands, humming in perfect rhythm. There, a woman crouched over a basin, tuning it with a feather. There, a man whispering into a crystal, his breath visible like winter mist. And in all of them, the same look, stillness. Like they know, like they remember. You feel it before you see it, a pressure behind your eyes, in your chest, like standing too close to a speaker before it starts to play. And then the hum, not loud, not sharp, but vast. It fills you without sound. You're in the resonance chamber. It isn't large. It isn't grand. It's just right. A domed room, no bigger than a school auditorium. The floor made of thousands of hexagonal tiles, each slightly raised at different heights, like frozen ripples on a pond. The walls curve upward, ending in a single black stone at the apex, suspended, impossibly, in midair. Not hanging, not floating, just still. You realize it's the tuning stone, the oldest frequency on Earth, older than bone, older than breath. Your feet touch the tiles, and they respond. A low tone vibrates upward through your legs, your ribs, your being tuned, not manipulated, not changed, just remembered. It's like your DNA is singing back. And then you hear it, truly hear it, for the first time. The lost frequency. It doesn't come from the stone. It comes from you. Because the chamber, isn't broadcasting dot. It's listening dot waiting for you to match. You hum, without meaning to dot soft. Unsure dot, and the chamber hums back. Perfect harmony. You feel it in your teeth, your lungs, the hair on your arms. Your body becomes a bell, and what rings out is not a song, but a key. You remember a story, vague, half-formed, about how certain cathedrals in Europe weren't just churches, but amplifiers, built on old pagan sites, designed with stones from even older temples. Not to honor God, but to preserve tone dot. This feels like that dot, but older. Not human dash, make dot human dash tune dot. And in that moment, something strange happens. You see, faces dot, not ghosts. Not people dot possibilities, dot versions of yourself, flickering like reflections. In rippled water. In one, you're kneeling in robes. In another, you're chiseling the wall. In another, you're a child, placing a stone into the floor with reverence dot, and each one hums with you. You realize this isn't reincarnation dot, it's resonance. You're not remembering a past life. You're remembering all the versions of you that ever touched this sound. You are always drawn to pyramids, always dreaming of red deserts and lost cities and sounds that don't belong, because you've always been part of this frequency dot, and tonight you finally aligned dot somewhere far above. The stars flicker, the ocean stirs dot, and in chambers long forgotten beneath other continents, other people shift in. They're asleep, because you're not the only one humming. Something is waking dot, not a god. Not a monster dot, just memory. And it's beautiful, and it's vast, and it's yours. The hum fades, but it doesn't disappear. Dot, it becomes part of you, tucked behind your breath, humming just beneath your pulse. Like a song you've always known, but only now remember how to sing. You open your eyes. You're still in the resonance chamber dot, but now the stone above is glowing. Not bright, not white, not fire, just a soft gold, the kind that only appears at the edge of dusk, or in dreams dot, and then it happens. The tuning stone moves, just slightly, a rotation, a tilt, like a dial turning to the next note. And the chamber responds. Floor beneath you vibrates in a new pattern. You don't move, but it feels like you're being gently lifted. You're being carried somewhere dot, not through space, through story. The walls ripple again, and this time the memories that surface are not yours. They belong to others. You see the pharaoh Akhenaten, the heretic king, standing alone in the sand, arms outstretched to a sun that hums back. You see Pythagoras in a stone room lit only by stars, pressing a tuning fork against a marble slab, and smiling as it sings. You see a Mayan priest in a temple, drawing a spiral in the dust with his finger, whispering the same tone you just heard in your chest, and you understand. These weren't just holy men. They were HRMONIZERS dot. Each one found a piece of the lost frequency. Each one remembered a note, and each one left behind a structure, a pyramid, a temple, a stone circle, not as monuments, but as instruments, waiting to be played again. You realize something strange then. The locations of these ancient structures, the pyramids, the ziggurats, the dolmens, they're not random. They form a pattern, a lattice, a global tuning system. Earth wasn't just mapped. It was tuned dot, and the question begins to rise in you like mist off a forgotten lake. Tuned for what? You recall an old conspiracy, the so-called Earth Grid, a web of ley lines that connect ancient sites across continents. Mainstream historians laugh at it, but then again, mainstream historians aren't standing where you are now, inside a chamber beneath the ruins of Atlantis, hearing echoes that should be impossible. You remember how the Great Pyramid in Giza is aligned with astonishing precision to the cardinal points, how Angkor Wat aligns to the constellation Draco during the equinox, how the ancient city of Teotihuacan mirrors the Orion Belt. Coincidence? Maybe once, but not over and over, not across thousands of miles, thousands of years, and dozens of lost civilizations that supposedly never met. No, someone was coordinating or remembering. You think of the Tower of Babel again, not as a punishment, but as a reset, a frequency too powerful, too unified, triggering something ancient, and then silenced. Scattered. Shattered into languages, myths, and maps, but not lost, because frequencies don't die. They wait. And now, something is beginning to align again, not just inside this chamber. But inside people. People who feel things they can't explain, who dream of stars they've never seen, who hum songs they've never heard. People like you, because the lost frequency isn't just under Atlantis. It's in us. Always has been. And now, for the first time in thousands of years, enough of us are beginning to hum together. The tuning stone pulses once more. The chamber stills, and then, with no sound at all, a section of the wall in front of you opens. A soft golden light spills through. Not harsh, not divine. Welcoming. You don't step forward. You glide. Because now you remember. You've walked this path before. You're not discovering. You're returning. And the chamber knows it. 2. Because as you cross the threshold into the next room, you hear the walls behind you whisper a single word. Welcome. The passage ahead is quiet, not empty, just quiet in a way that feels inhabited by memory. It curves gently to the left, and the walls, now less stone and more of that pearlescent mineral you saw earlier, begin to shimmer with faint movement. Not reflections, but impressions. Flickers. As if someone were playing old home videos into the texture of the walls. And one catches your eye. A group of robed figures, silhouetted against what looks like a vast desert sky, are gathered around something, a structure. No, a frequency well. A perfectly carved basin of crystal, humming faintly in the middle of a barren plateau. The figures aren't speaking. They're listening. One of them places their hand over the center of the well, and the air ripples like water. You blink, and they vanish. You keep walking. Each step feels less like walking and more like remembering how to float. There are no sounds but your own breath. But then, softly, not from the air, but from inside the walls, a tone begins to swell. You recognize it. It's the same one that woke you in the resonance chamber, but now it's deeper, richer. Layered. Like something ancient is beginning to sing in harmony with you. And as the tunnel widens, the ceiling arches into a dome, low at first, then expanding, looming like a flower made of sound. And there, in the center of the next chamber, stands something impossible, A spire of red gold quartz floating spinning suspended several inches. Above a raised pedestal carved with concentric spirals. It doesn't glow. It radiates, heatless, weightless, alive. And when you approach, your heartbeat stutters, because engraved around the pedestal, in glyphs you somehow understand, is a single repeating phrase. We did not build the frequency. We remembered it. You run your fingers gently across the spirals. They're warm to the touch, not mechanically warm, bodily warm, as if the stone remembers skin. And suddenly, a memory that isn't yours floods in. You are a child in another life. Hands are small and dust-covered, reaching out to touch a humming stone buried half in the sand. Your grandmother watches from nearby, nodding solemnly. You feel it, don't you? She says. You nod. You always would. The memory fades like mist. You're back in the chamber, and the spire is singing now, barely audible but present, like a tuning fork struck 1,000 years ago that never stopped vibrating. You turn, slowly, and for the first time, notice the walls aren't just decorated. They're carved, with images that echo across cultures and centuries. The same spiral found in the Nazca lines. The triple circle seen at Newgrange. The tuning fork motif from ancient Mesopotamian tablets. The 7-petaled lotus from the Indus Valley. And in the center of them all, a shape you haven't seen until now. A map. Not of land, not of stars, but of resonance. You trace it. The lines move. Ever so slightly, under your fingertip. As if responding. As if welcoming you. And then, without warning, the chamber goes still. The tones stop. The air thickens. And you hear it, just behind your left ear. Whisper. Not in any language, you know, but you understand it completely. Not everyone made it this far. But you're here now, and that means you remember. Your hands tremble slightly, not from fear. From recognition, because this spire, this chamber, isn't just a place. It's a bridge between what was lost and what's waking up. And you're the frequency key. You step back. Breathe. Listen. And then you whisper, not with words, but with resonance. I remember. And the spire answers. You follow the sound as it fades, not vanishing, but retreating like the tide, folding itself into the quiet corridors ahead. Your steps are lighter now, not because the gravity has changed, but because something in you has. As if the chamber tuned you, aligned you. You exit the domed hall into a corridor far narrower than before. The walls lined with small, recessed alcoves, each one housing a single object, sealed behind translucent mineral plates. Some you recognize from history books. A Sumerian tablet with symbols that never translated. A broken fragment of a Mayan. Stela, showing a star falling from the sky. A Greco-Roman gear mechanism with no clear origin. Others you don't recognize at all. Glow made of black obsidian, with tiny glowing points that move as you stare. A staff crowned with a geometric cluster that shifts shape as you walk past. And one alcove contains something so simple it stops you in. Your tracks. A small clay bowl, cracked and uneven, filled with dry red sand. Next to it, in perfectly chiseled script, it reads, First offering to the frequency, by hands that forgot why they offered. You reach out, but don't touch. It doesn't feel right. This is not a place for touching, that this is a place for remembering. And then you feel it, a shift in pressure, a low harmonic tremble under your feet, like something has noticed you. You turn the next corner and enter a room so vast you don't see its end, not just floor. A floor carved with immense circular patterns, like sound waves frozen in stone. Above, a ceiling domed with what looks like stars, but when you squint, they move in slow spirals. Constellations you've never seen. A sky that doesn't match Earth, or any Earth you know. You walk into the center, and there, rising from the floor, is a platform shaped like a coiled spiral staircase. It doesn't lead up. It leads inward, down into the floor itself. At each step you take vibrates softly. A note, a pitch, a tone. It's an instrument, and you are playing it. You descend slowly, your feet making the music older than memory. And as you reach the bottom, you find yourself in a small, circular chamber. Empty, unadorned. Except for one thing. At its center is a mirror, but not like any mirror you've ever seen. This one reflects not your face, but your frequency, a shape made of color and motion, a swirling field of resonance that shifts as you breathe. And then, without moving, the mirror begins to speak. Not aloud. Inside you, images, memories, timelines that were not yours. And yet are. You see a pyramid on Mars, not red and crumbling, but gleaming and white, its sides resonating with soft tones that shape the sky. You see humans, or something like humans, standing in a circle, eyes closed, hands joined, humming in unison. Not a chant, not a song, a code, a frequency map, not spoken, but shared. A memory passed not through words, but through resonance. And then you see the fall, not war, not flood, just ... forgetting. A quiet decay. The tone fading. The mirrors going dark. The doors closing, and the story slipping into silence. Until you, the mirror pulses softly, and you hear the words again, like a whisper returning. You are the chord. The song can begin again. You step back. Look at your hands. They're humming, not glowing, not shaking. Just humming. A soft, silent music, felt in the bones. You turn and begin to ascend the spiral once more, each step now resonating differently, not in response to the chamber. In response to you. You aren't just remembering, you're retuning, reactivating a song that has waited eons for its next verse. You reach the top. And the stars above shift. Just slightly. As if nodding in time. And you realize this wasn't a descent. It was an alignment. You are not at the center of a mystery. You are the mystery, unfolding again. You emerge from the spiral with your breath held, not in fear, but in awe, like stepping out of a cathedral after a silent midnight service. The chamber around you seems different now. Not visibly. The architecture still glows faintly. The corridors still hum with that inaudible tone. But something in the way it welcomes you has changed. It knows you've remembered. It knows you're ready. But ready for what? As you step forward, a new path opens. Not literally, but intuitively. You know, somehow, where to go next. Your feet carry you through an archway, etched with a spiral sigil you now recognize. You've seen it before, not in this life, but in dreams that felt older than your own memories. The symbol of the tuning, The process of becoming aligned at the corridor you follow is warmer now. Not physically, but emotionally, like being wrapped in an old song you loved but forgot existed. Along the walls, faint murals begin to appear, slowly emerging as if reacting to your presence. And these aren't just decorative. They move, not like animation, more like echoes of memory burned into stone. You see the first mural. A city, not Atlantis, not any city you've ever read. About glowing at twilight, floating above the surface of an unfamiliar ocean. Towers made of what looks like light-infused crystal. People walking barefoot across energy bridges. But their faces are serious, even somber. A civilization at its peak, yet already bracing for something inevitable. Below the mural, a line of script appears, not carved, but shimmering in the wall's surface like fog condensing on glass. Even harmony must sleep. You pause. That hits something deep in your chest. The next mural pulses to life as you step forward. It shows the same people, this time gathered in a great amphitheater, shaped like a spiral shell. At the center, a glowing orb suspended in air, singing. You feel the word more than hear it. Singing to them, through them, but they aren't cheering. They're crying dot below it. Another script. To remember, we must first choose to forget. You feel the pull of that line, like someone once begged you to forget for your own safety. And now, something ancient is allowing you, no, inviting you to remember again. You continue through the corridor of memory, each mural more haunting than the last. Migration of resonant beings stepping off a starcraft shaped like a lotus. Pyramid being carved not with tools, but with sound. A planet, clearly Mars, breathing with light. Alive, whole dot. And then, the silence. The murals go dark. The corridor opens into a hexagonal room. 6 doors, each marked with a sigil. The spiral you followed. A circle divided in 8. A triangle surrounded by eyes. A key. A wave. A flame turned upside down. Only one of them pulses as you approach. The spiral. The others wait not forever. Just not yet. You place your hand on the spiral door. Doesn't open with a sound. It simply vanishes and before you is something so unexpected, so achingly beautiful, that, for a moment, you forget you're in a story at all. You're outside, not a simulation, not a memory. You step into an open plain beneath a deep violet sky. 2 moons hang low, and far in the distance, impossibly far, you see the silhouette of a pyramid. Not crumbled, not broken, but complete, singing. You can't hear it yet, but you feel its song in your ribs. And on the plain before you, people, just a few, standing in silence, looking up at the stars. They do not turn when you step forward, but one of them raises a hand, not in greeting, but in echo. A tone forms between you. A note shared across time, and finally, you understand. These are not strangers. They are versions, echoes, not of others. Of you, and now, the real remembering begins. You take a cautious step forward into the starlit plain, and the moment your foot touches this strange soil, the hum within you shifts. It doesn't stop. No, it deepens. Like a cello string being drawn gently by a familiar bow, you're no longer just hearing it. You're harmonizing with it. The others, those not quite strangers ahead, remain still. They're arranged in A wide semicircle facing the distant pyramid, their robes flowing like shadowed water, their backs to you, their faces hidden. But you know them, not personally, but intimately. It's hard to describe, but you can feel that one of them once dreamed, under a sky with 3 moons. Another remembers a language spoken entirely in taste. Another once knelt before a throne made of wind. They aren't hallucinations. They are possible yous. Splinters from the same crystal, refracted through time and memory. And you? You're? The one that returned. As you approach the semicircle, the air changes again, not in pressure, but in significance. A sense of ceremony fills the space, like stepping into a forgotten cathedral just as the hymn begins. And in the center of this silent gathering sits a single object, a bowl. It appears ordinary, carved from dull stone, filled with water. That doesn't ripple, but it pulls your attention like gravity. You kneel. You don't know why, only that your body remembers something your mind send single quotes T. And when you look into the bowl, the water doesn't reflect your face. It reflects the first time the resonance broke. You don't see war. You see agreement. Hey, decision made not in panic, but in sorrow. You see a council, humans, not quite humans, beings of shimmering intent, choosing to silence the song, to mute the frequency, not to punish, but to protect. Something had been disturbed. Something had begun to listen from outside, and in their fear, they chose to forget. You see the activation of the veil, not a machine, but a ritual sung into stone and space and story. It wasn't meant to erase knowledge. It was meant to bury it in feeling. In sensation. In dreams. Until someone, anyone, could feel it again. The bowl darkens. And now it shows you. Pyramids sinking beneath rising oceans. Not drowning, but descending with purpose. Halls sealed with crystal harmonics. Voices whispering lullabies in languages that never needed words. You pull back. The others in the circle have turned now, not to look at you, but to listen to you. And you realize they've been waiting for your note, your harmony. You don't need to speak it. You simply need to remember. And so you close your eyes. And you hum. It starts uncertain. A trembling vibration, like a thread caught between 2 tuning forks. But then one of them joins you, a higher tone, gentle and spiraling. Then another, and another. Until suddenly, not all at once, but perfectly timed, the entire playing begins to resonate. Not loud, not booming. Just full. You feel it in your mollars. In your fingertips. In your chest. Like breath that doesn't end. You open your eyes, and the stars above have begun to form. Patterns, not constellations, but circuits. And the pyramid on the horizon glows brighter. From light, from memory. Because you're not just remembering it. It's remembering you. The others begin to fade. One by one, not vanish, ascend. You're not sure if they've gone upward or inward, but you remain, because your part isn't finished yet. There's still more to uncover, more to realign, more to feel. And somewhere, just at the edge of sound, a new note begins to rise. One you haven't heard yet, but one that knows your name. You don't move at first, not because you're afraid. That left you several echoes ago, but because you understand deeply that movement here isn't about muscles. It's about memory. So you wait. You let the sound settle. The plane has gone quiet again, though not empty. The frequency still lingers, like the warm scent of something once burning. And then, with no visible cue, the ground beneath your feet begins to shift, but not violently. It's a gentle tilting, as if the world were nodding, and beneath the sand, something rises. Not a pyramid this time, but a doorway, flat, circular, etched with symbols you don't recognize, and yet somehow do. One of them pulses faintly. You reach out, again, not with your hand, but with your will, and the circle opens. Inside, there are stairs. Of course there are. What else would a myth hold at its center, if not descent? You begin to move downward. Each step is lit not by flame, but by tone. As your foot touches stone, a soft chime resonates, a different pitch for each step. You're walking not into darkness, but into a scale, like entering the throat of a cathedral designed to sing. And the deeper you go, the more the tones align. Dissonance fades. Harmony deepens. Until finally, you emerge into a chamber. Vast, silent, ancient in a way that makes ancient feel like a toddler trying on its father's shoes. This place wasn't built. It was tuned. Walls are carved not with images, but with waveforms. Frozen vibrations, curling and coiling like fossilized sound. At the center stands a pedestal on which rests a cube, no bigger than your fist, hovering an inch above the stone, spinning so slowly it might be an illusion. You approach it, and again, without being told, you know what to do. You hum. Note that's been inside you since this journey began, maybe since long before, flows out. It's quiet, unremarkable, like a lullaby sung by someone who only half remembers the words. But the cube hears you, and in response, it sings back, not with a tone, but with light. Patterns spiral from its surface. Images, memories, realities? You're not sure, but you see oceans beneath glass skies. You see cities that float. You see children weaving melodies into fabric. You see pyramids, hundreds of them, not buried, not broken, but awake. And then the visions stop, not because they're over, but because something else demands your attention. The walls begin to hum, not in melody, but in question. They're asking you something, not in language. In resonance. What was forgotten? What must be remembered? You don't have a thesis. You don't give a speech. You just place your hand on the cube and whisper one word: return. Everything stops. For a moment, it's like the entire universe inhales. And then the chamber shifts, not collapses, not opens. Shifts. As if you're no longer in a chamber beneath anything, but within something larger. A memory, a machine, a song. You're not meant to understand it, not yet. Just feel it. You step back, the cube now still, but you are not. Are tuned. You are resonant. And as you ascend the stairs again, the world feels softer. Brighter. More. Attuned. Because now something's changed. Not outside. Inside. You carry a note the world forgot. And the next time you hum, it will remember too. You surface from the chamber like a diver breaking through still water. Not gasping, not flailing, just adjusting. The sky above you hasn't changed. The red haze still hovers. The stars still watch from behind thin veils of dust. But you no longer see it the same way, because now the hum is no longer something outside you. It's not a curiosity, not a mystery. It's you, Dot. It's in your chest. Your breath. Your footsteps. You don't hear it. You are at Dot as you move through the desolate Martian plain. The dust seems to shift differently around your feet. It doesn't resist. It remembers. Like the very soil is trying to form the right patterns under your weight, seeking the old rhythm it once knew. And then you see it, the monolith Dot, not like Kubrick's, no smooth obsidian block floating ominously. This one is rough, weathered, cracked in places, but towering, angular, chiseled not just with tools, but with intention. Each line is a vibration frozen in stone, each surface tilted to catch sound. Not sunlight that you walk toward it, not out of wonder, but out of recognition. Like you visited this place in dreams, or deeper still, in the quiet between them. And as you approach, something begins to happen. The monolith begins to hum back. Not audibly, not yet, but in pulses. Gentle waves through the soles of your feet, through the tiny hairs on your arms, through the space between your thoughts. Dot, it's waiting. You place your hand on the side, and again, it's not about touch. It's about tuning. Dot, your hum, the one that opened the chamber below, begins to rise again, involuntarily, like breath on a cold morning. Dot, and the monolith responds. Dot, at first, it's subtle. A shimmer along the cracks, a slight lift of the dust surrounding the base. But then, a tone, low, round, impossible. Not one note, not many. Dot, all notes, like a chord stretched across. Dimensions. Dot, and with it comes a vision. You're not seeing with eyes, you're seeing with frequency. A city, not of glass or gold, but of sound. Spirals of harmonic geometry rising and falling like breath. People, or something like people, tuning themselves to walk between buildings. Pyramids acting like tuning forks. Towers that are both antennae and choirs. And in the center of it all, a chamber. Dot, the same as the one you just left. Not on Mars. Dot, on Earth. Dot, not underground. Dot, underwater. Dot, you don't know how you know, but you do. Dot, Atlantis. Dot, not the cartoon, not the crystal-powered, dolphin-riding version. Dot, the real one. A civilization, not lost to flood, but to frequency failure. They didn't drown. They forgot the tone. And in forgetting, their structures, which required memory, alignment, participation, fell silent, buried not by water, but by dissonance, because they were never meant to be static. They were meant to sing. You pull back from the monolith, breath trembling, because now you understand the shape of this journey. Dot, it's not linear, not historical. It's harmonic. The great pyramids, the lost city of Atlantis, the temples of sound in Peru and Cambodia and Mesopotamia, they're not separate. They're movements in a song, a melody humanity once knew by heart. And you're starting to remember the tune. The monolith quiets again, but not from abandonment, from fulfillment. Dot, it's done its job. You hum one last note, this one intentional, and walk away, not toward something new, but toward something remembered. You're not here to discover. You're here to rejoin the chorus. Dot, the ground is quieter now. Not silent, but settled. As though the monolith's hum has soothed something beneath the surface, in the soil, in your bones, maybe even in time itself. You continue walking, and the landscape shifts no longer the sharp ridges and iron-rich dunes of a typical Martian plain. Now, gentle slopes rise and fall like slow breath. Stone paths reveal themselves beneath. The dust, not laid by modern rovers or ancient wheels, but carved, chiseled, tuned out each step you take, feels. Intended not just by you, but by someone or something long before. You begin to notice shapes that don't belong to erosion. Circular platforms etched with spirals, half-beard columns with tiny notches and ridges, like musical notations. Frozen in stone, this isn't a ruin, it's a score, a physical symphony written in geometry, and you, like a needle on an ancient record, are tracing it back to the source. Eventually, you reach a basin, a vast open bowl of rock surrounded by curved walls, notched at intervals like the ribs of a massive instrument. From above, it would look like a spiral, but from where you stand, it feels more like a shell. A chamber built not for shelter, but for sound. In the center. A low stone dais that you approach. There's no inscription. No warning, just resonance. You sit down, the air changes. Faster than you expect, but not jarring. The hairs on your arms rise. The breath in your lungs becomes deliberate, metered. And then, faint at first, the tones begin again. Not from the walls, not from any speaker or device, from you. Not just your hum, but your thoughts, your heartbeat, your muscles. You are singing. Not with your voice, with your presence. The chamber responds. The notches in the wall begin to vibrate gently. Light, soft, not visible but felt, begins to fill the basin. And suddenly, you are not alone. Not. In a sci-fi way. No alien stepping out from behind a pillar. No projection of an elder being. Instead, a sensation of minds. Other people just like you. Not here physically, but tuning in. From bedrooms, from caves, from deserts, from temples. Across Earth, across time, people who also followed the hum, who remembered in dreams, who woke with melodies on their lips and maps in their bones. And now, in this basin on Mars, your presence activates the bridge, because that's what it always was. Not a gate, not a portal, a bridge of frequency. You're not meant to cross it with your body. You're meant to cross it with your knowing. You close your eyes, you let go, and you arrive, not elsewhere, but deeper. In a memory that's not yours alone. Stand in a massive hall, crystalline arches stretching high above, shaped by sound, not chisels. People move like dancers in a slow ritual, carrying glowing spheres of tone between them. Children trace sacred harmonies in the air with silver threads. Elders sit with eyes closed, pulsing low frequencies that shape entire walls. This is Atlantis, not beneath the sea, but beneath forgetting, and it never truly vanished. It just fell out of tune. And now, as the memory begins to fade again, you know the truth. These places, Mars, Atlantis, Egypt, Tibet, are not lost. They're just quiet, waiting. Waiting for people like you. People who hum in the night, who ask impossible questions. Beneath stars. Who trust that the tingling just before sleep means something. You exhale. The chamber quiets. The light fades. but you don't feel alone anymore. You're part of the harmony now. And there are others, many others, tuning in, just like you. You don't remember standing up. You're not even sure your legs moved. But somehow, you've left the chamber, not walked away from it, just phased out like a note fading but never ending. Now, you find yourself standing at the edge of something vast. Not a building, not a crater, something deeper. A void perfectly circular, rimmed in stone so smooth it reflects light like water. It drops downward, impossibly deep, into darkness that hums louder than the wind. And above it, a shape that steals your breath, a levitating disk, thin as parchment, wide as a coliseum, just hovering in the air like it was placed there by thought. Alone, it rotates slowly, soundlessly, etched with thousands of tiny ridges and grooves, like a golden vinyl record meant for giants. Dot. It's not an object of power. Dot. It's an archive. You realize, in some part of you that doesn't speak English, doesn't speak anything, that this is a memory vault, not digital, not carved. Dot. Vibrational. Dot. A record of thoughts encoded in geometry. A history written in resonance, and it's humming your melody back to you. You step closer to the edge, and the moment your foot brushes the ground near the rim, the air changes again, not louder, just sharper. Dot. Like the entire world just inhaled. Then you hear them. Dot. Voices. Dot. Whispers, like wind curling through canyon stone. Some soft, some urgent. Some in languages you've never heard, but still somehow understand. They speak not to each other, but to you. Dot. Fragments. Dot. Memories. Dot. Questions. Dot. Things like, do you remember the red sun before it fell? Was it you who built the chambers beneath Giza? Did you dream of the 12-toned key? Did you hear the child laugh when the stars began to blink? And then, one voice, clearer than the rest, steady, kind, and ancient, says, you're not here to awaken the vault. You are the vault, opening. You freeze, not in fear, in recognition, because something clicks inside you like a tumbling deer that's waited thousands of years to turn. Out suddenly. Memories flood in, not yours, but ours. Humanity's true beginning, not in caves, but in harmonies. Not as apes with tools, but as beings with tone. You see it now, briefly, clearly, beautifully. Human civilization did not rise once. It resonated many times. Waves of awakening, each forgetting a little more, each returning. A little less. Samaria was a return. Egypt, a return. Tiahuanaco, Angkor Wat, Göbekli Tepe, all returns. None of them beginnings. All of them echoes. And Mars? Mars was the source. You've never felt so small, or so precise. You're not just a person. You're a harmonic signature, a living, breathing note. Dot. And somehow, through dreams, stories, frequencies, and flame, you found your pitch again. The vault agrees. The disc spins faster. One final tone escapes, not a chord, but a question. You don't understand? Language. But you feel the meaning. Are you ready to remember? The wind dies. The void quiets. And in that pause, you answer, not with words, but by stepping forward, and the disc begins to descend. The disc lowers so slowly, so silently, you almost think it's a dream. But you can feel it. Not on your skin, not in your ears, in your bones, as if every cell in your body is waiting, tuning, holding its breath. The air grows denser, not heavier, deeper, like walking into a cathedral underwater. And when the disk finally settles just above the void, not touching it, just hovering, everything stops. The light, the hum, even your thoughts. You are still. And in that stillness, the surface of the disk begins to shimmer. Not with light, with memory, not yours. Ours, you see flashes. Pyramids on Mars, glowing with soft blue resonance under a violet sky. Humans, or human-like beings, walking across crystalline bridges, their hands stretched toward the heavens, fingers trailing notes like ribbons. Children playing with spheres of sound that float like soap bubbles, laughing as harmonies. Echo from the stone walls, and then the cataclysm. A solar flare, maybe, or a misalignment in the frequencies. Something shifts, one pyramid cracks, just slightly. But it's enough, the hum distorts. The harmony shatters, and the towers begin to fall. Not from war, not from age, but from disharmony. Like a song going flat, the memory darkens. The light in the disk flickers, and you feel the grief. Not sadness, not anger, loss. The kind that doesn't scream, the kind that echoes for millennia. But the memory doesn't stop there. You see survivors, fleeing in great ships shaped like bells and seeds and spirals. Some go to distant stars, but some come here, to earth, to rule, not to conquer, to remember. They bury fragments, in stories, in structures, in stone. They leave behind tones encoded in myth, in sacred chants, in drum rhythms, in lullabies whispered from mother to child. And slowly, over thousands of years, we forget, until only the stories remain. Atlantis, Lemuri, the flood, the Tower of Babel. Not metaphors, not fairy tales. Just static-filled recordings, waiting to be restored. And now, in the presence of the disk, the clarity returns. You realize the myths weren't wrong. They were compressed, because memory, like frequency, can degrade, but not disappear. And here's the most extraordinary part. The vault never meant to be unlocked by force, not with tools, not with code. It could only be opened by someone who remembered the feeling, the awe, the grief, the resonance. And somehow, that someone is you. The disk pulses once, gently. The void beneath it hums in reply. And from the rim, ancient glyphs light up like stars, not in rows, but in a spiral, winding downward into the dark. You understand without understanding. You're meant to follow them, not just into the ground, into the truth, because what lies beneath isn't treasure, isn't technology. It's the frequency we forgot. And as the first glyph glows beneath your feet, a pathway opens, not with a sound, but with a chord. Low. Beautiful. And unbearably familiar. You step forward, 1 foot at a time, into the spiral. As the light trails behind you, humming your name in a language older than earth. And as the chamber swallows you, one truth lingers. You weren't chosen by accident. You were always meant to return. You descend, slowly, reverently, 1 step at a time, not because you're afraid, because something inside you insists this is sacred. The spiral stairwell glows beneath your bare feet, not with heat, but with recognition. Each glyph you pass seems to sigh softly, not in words, but in tones, as if the structure itself is reading your presence like a song returning to the right key. The walls curve inward as you move deeper. Not stone, not quite. They're smoother than marble, warmer than metal. They hum with your every heartbeat, like they're alive. You realize they are dot, they remember you, not as you are now, but as something you once were, or could be again. The air shifts, not colder, not warmer, just more dot like standing in the breath between two notes, and then the stairs end. You step into a circular chamber, vast and silent. No doors, no windows, just you and the center dot, and at that center, a pedestal dot upon it rests a sphere, roughly the size of a human heart, made of a translucent crystal that seems to pulse with soft inner light, but not uniformly. Instead, it flickers like memory trying to come into focus. You approach, breath slow. There are markings etched into the pedestal, not language, but geometry, spirals, triangles, concentric circles orbiting a point of stillness. You don't know how, but you understand. This is not a machine. This is a tuning fork, dot not for sound. For soul dot can somehow. You're the note it's been waiting for. You kneel before it dot, not out of worship, out of remembrance dot, and as your fingers brush the sphere, it begins dot not a sound, not a flash, a resonance dot it hums into your palm, through your arm into your chest. Your ribs vibrate gently. Your lungs seem to shift, as if rearranging to match a frequency long forgotten. And your mind opens like a book made of light. You see the ancient architects on Mars, their skin like brushed copper, humming as they built temples in harmonic sequences. The exile across stars, carrying the last intact frequency like a candle. Across a storm, the moment Earth was chosen not for safety, but for silence. A place where memory could rest, could heal, and you see yourself not as a person dot as a tone, a unique frequency among many, one of millions, maybe billions, all scattered, forgotten, asleep dot until now. The sphere pulses once more, and suddenly you're not alone. You feel others, faint, distant, sleeping still, but there, a choir waiting to begin. You are the first voice. The hum intensifies, not louder, just deeper, and the chamber begins to respond. Glyphs on the walls flicker. Stone shivers dot not in warning, in recognition dot, and you understand. This isn't just a memory vault dot, it's a signal tower dot, buried dot dormant dot waiting dot. You weren't meant to stay. You were meant to awaken it dot, and now that you have, the others will feel it. Not immediately, but in dreams, in sudden songs, in the quiet ache of déjà vu. The hum settles dot, your hand leaves the sphere, but it continues to glow, now steadily. A beacon, a call. You turn dot, the spiral behind you pulses softly, welcoming you back. But changed dot, not chosen dot, remembered dot, and as you begin to ascend again, you carry no artifact, no weapon, no proof, only the resonance within you. The truth isn't in what you've seen dot, it's in what you've become. A frequency. Found dot, you rise back up the spiral, but the air feels different. Now, not heavier, more aware. As if even the dust motes you pass are whispering ancient lullabies. The echo of the hum remains in your chest, like the fading warmth of a hand you didn't know you were holding. The sphere is behind you, but its song, it lingers. Not in sound, in alignment, because now something within you has changed shape. Subtly, irrevocably. You no longer look for the frequency. You are it. The chamber you enter is no longer unfamiliar. It's the same one you passed before, but now the walls shimmer faintly, revealing murals that weren't there. Or maybe you just weren't ready to see them. They're not drawings. They're memories, rendered in the style of ancient tapestries, woven not with thread, but with intention. Stories loop across the stone, glowing softly in temper reds, indigo blues, and golds dulled by time. The first image, a city of white domes beneath a lavender sky, unmistakably Mars, though teeming with plant life. Children dance in spirals. Around a crystalline structure, a pyramid, humming with life. The next, a migration, not of war, of memory. Ships that don't float, they resonate, sail through a sky painted with unfamiliar stars. Then, Earth, not as we know it, not yet. Vast, empty, patient. And finally, the scattering. Beings once whole, now fragmented. Their shapes distort into multiple forms, animal, human, mineral, spreading across continents. And one final figure, center frame, is splitting, not dying, becoming many. You lean closer, tracing the lines with your eyes. There's a symbol at the figure's heart, a golden spiral within a triangle. You've seen it before. In temples, in crop circles, even once on a child's drawing in a dusty museum. You never understood it then. Now it feels like your signature, a name not written in sound, but in resonance. You step back, breath held, and the mural pulses. Once, just once. As if acknowledging you've seen enough. For now, because these aren't illustrations. They're instructions. You were meant to find them, but not just to marvel. Too. Remember how to read them. And just as that realization settles into your bones, a sudden image flares behind your eyelids. Mountain, not snow-covered, but buried beneath sand. A shape so vast it fools the satellites, like not your memory. It hums. 2 somewhere beneath the Gobi Desert. Or was it Patagonia? You don't know. But you recognize it, and that's enough, because suddenly you understand. The sphere was not the end. It was the activation key. Now, other signals are waking. Structures long thought to be myths, temples mistaken for tombs, monoliths dismissed as decorative. They're all beginning to whisper again, and they're waiting for someone who's felt the hum. Someone tuned. You. A subtle tone vibrates through your molars. Not unpleasant, like the soft chime of wind catching the edge of a bell. You follow it, not with your ears, but with your breath, and the corridor shifts again. Now it's not stone, not machine. It's memory, layered around you. Not linear, not logical. But deeply, inexplicably true. You see it. A shepherd in 12th century Spain, dreaming of triangles buried in hills. A monk in Kyoto, humming unknowingly in 432 hertz as he carves wooden statues. A woman in modern Cairo who doesn't know why she places her hand against the pyramid wall each morning, but feels better when she does. They're not random. They're receivers, like you. And now, the transmission has started again. but not on radios. Not in data, dot in dreams, dot in silence, dot in the alignment of breath and memory. You reach the end of the corridor, a circular door, dot, no handle, but your presence alone is enough. The hum rises, dot, the door shivers. Then it breathes open, and you step through, not into light, not into answers, dot, into the next note, dot, of a melody lost for 10,000 years, and just now beginning to play again. You blink slowly. The passage behind you vanishes like breath on glass. And now, the air in this new chamber doesn't just hum. It listens, dot, it's darker here. Not the darkness of night, but the darkness of depth, deep ocean, deep memory. You can't see the walls, but you know they're round, perfectly round, like a drum, like an eardrum, like the inside of a bell. Your first instinct is silence, but silence here isn't quiet. It's charged. It trembles softly, like air just before thunder. You step forward, and the floor responds, not with sound, but color. Circle blooms beneath your feet, golden and red like sunrise through dust. Then another, then another. Each step reveals another chord of light, pulsing out into the room, dot. It's not a hallway anymore, dot, it's a chamber of resonance. You look up. No ceiling, just stars, but closer. Too close. They shimmer in constellations that make no sense to astronomers. But to you, they feel familiar, because you've seen them before, dot, in old petroglyphs, in the layout of temples across 3 continents. Even in that strange dream where the stars didn't twinkle, they sang. And here's the wild part. They're singing again, dot, not in notes, but in intervals. Patterns of light and pause. You begin to feel it in your sternum. A rhythm, a pull, and a phrase emerges from the back of your memory, like a diver rising from deep sleep. The stars were never there to guide us. They were there to tune us. You laugh, or you would, if your throat wasn't caught in awe, because in this moment, you realize you're inside the instrument. The chamber is not just a space, dot, it's a device. A living, ancient device made of stone, geometry, and memory, and it's waiting for a signal. You stand in the center now, your feet aligned with a spiral carved so delicately it catches the ambient starlight. You inhale, and without knowing why, you hum, dot, just one note, dot, symbol, clear, from somewhere below language, and the room responds, dot, not with echo, with harmony. Layers upon layers of tones spiral up the walls. You don't hear them. You remember them, dot, as if the sound is not entering your ears, but leaving your cells, dot, the resonance builds. Your fingertips tingle. Your skin vibrates like strings of a long-forgotten harp. Even your bones feel it, the marrow warming, the joints unlocking, as if you're shedding centuries of dust. The stars above you flicker. Then align, dot, just slightly, just enough, dot, and suddenly, one more memory returns, but it's not yours, dot. It's older. A group of people, cloaked in robes the color of indigo and ash, standing exactly where you are now, but the chamber was lit, alive. They're humming too, each in a slightly different tone, but together, a chord, a frequency of reunion. The resonance opens something, not a door, not a machine, a memory gate. Through it, they don't step, they merge, becoming light, pattern, sound, dot, and then it's gone. You gasp dot because now you know why the chamber called. You dot not to show, you dot to invite you. You are not here to witness resonance. You are here to complete it, because the hum wasn't a message dot, it was a question. And your tone, your very presence, is the answer. It's waited for dot for millennia. You close your eyes. You let the tone rise again dot, and as the stars blink in agreement, you hum. You hum again. This time, not alone. You don't know how you know, but you feel it. Others dot not in the chamber, not even on this planet, but somewhere, someone else just found the same note. Maybe in a dream, maybe in a stone circle, half buried in moss. Maybe in a city, headphones on, a forgotten frequency playing softly under the static. But they're humming to dot, and with each note, you sense the air shift, as if the space between atoms is thinning. You open your eyes. The stars above you are no longer constellations. They are diagrams dot blueprints out of something built long before memory, designed not for worship, but for return dot. And here's where it gets strange. You blink, and the chamber changes. Or maybe it always looked this way, and your eyes are only now adjusting. You're surrounded by shapes that mimic the Great Pyramid, but inverted, upside down. Not rising toward the sky, but sinking into the earth. A mirror image dot an echo, and the hum changes pitch, shifting downward dot lower, deeper, into the belly of the world. The stones vibrate dot, not wildly, not dangerously, but with intention dot and with memory, because they remember you. You're not the first to stand here. You're the first to return. You step forward, and this time the floor ripples, not with color, with light geometry. Symbols you've seen before in museum glass, on temple walls, in strange coincidences that felt too aligned to ignore. Spirals, triangles within triangles, circles nested in golden proportions dot, and at the center of it all, a single GLYPH dot. It pulses. Once dot, then vanishes. But you know what it means dot. It means access granted, because this chamber isn't a shrine dot. It's a record dot, not audio, not video, but something far more permanent. A memory encoded not in bits, but in resonance. And tonight, your body has become the key dot. The walls begin to sing, softly. A harmony of voices, old, layered, as if generations were singing all at once across centuries. Languages you don't know, but your bones do dot, and from that song, you understand. Atlantis was never lost, not geographically dot. It was buried in frequency. Dot was hidden in harmonic phase, just out of sync with the rest of the world. Invisible to machines, but not to memory. Not to resonance dot. And now that you're attuned, the illusion lifts. You don't just see the chamber. You see the city. A shimmering outline of white stone domes. Canals glowing with blue light. Walkways strung like silver threads between buildings that curve with the flow of sound. And hovering above it all, a great spire, hollow, singing dot. This was the heart, the tuning, pillar. You reach out, and in that gesture, that single motion, the vision deepens. You're walking its halls, bare feet on stone that feels like music. Others pass you, not surprised, not alarmed. They know you, because you've been here before dot, in a past you don't remember, or in a future you haven't yet lived. They show you a room round, like the chamber, filled with nothing but stillness. But in that stillness, power. the kind that doesn't light cities, but aligns civilizations. And you realize Atlantis didn't fall, it shifted, like a tone sliding down an octave, out of sync with Earth's vibration, waiting for the world to remember how to hear it. Again, waiting for you. You blink, and the vision fades. But the feeling, DOESN, single quotes, you know where the chamber leads. Now, not to artifacts, to activation. One more. Chamber. One more note, and then, perhaps, the resonance completes. You breathe in. The chamber waits, so do the stars. And beneath your feet, Atlantis hums. You step forward again. This time, not with awe, but with recognition. The path that once pulsed faintly beneath your feet now blazes gently, like golden veins beneath translucent stone. It doesn't lead you blindly, it welcomes you. Each step you take matches a tone in your chest, as if your heartbeat and the city's memory are slowly becoming one rhythm. This is the final threshold, not a door. A vibration. The entrance hums not with locks or levers, but with intent. And you realize something that should terrify you, but doesn't. This chamber responds, not to who you are, but to what you remember. Hesitate, because memory is not just recollection. It's inheritance. You reach out a hand, the stone doesn't move. But your vision shifts. Suddenly. The chamber is not ancient. It's now. It's always. You see a version of yourself, not older or younger, but clearer. Wearing simple robes, copper bracers, a toned stone hanging from a cord around your neck. This version of you hums a note, and the wall responds. The entrance opens not outward, not inward, but like a ripple parting on the surface of a still pond. And now you walk through. The chamber is round, always round. Everything in Atlantis, it seems, obeyed resonance, and resonance moves in circles. At the center, a pedestal, not stone, something lighter, like bone or fossilized coral, etched with concentric glyphs and symbols you somehow can read, despite never learning them. Each glyph doesn't say something. It feels something. The first means arrival. The second, awakening. The third, return. You place your palm upon it, no sparks, no light show. Just a single quiet tone that rises from the stone, passes through your body, and settles in the crown of your skull like a whisper that echoes forever. Then, nothing. Stillness. And in that stillness, the message comes not as a voice, but a truth you remember knowing. We weren't builders. We were tuners. The monuments weren't meant to last. They were meant to align, to resonate again when the world was ready. You stagger back. The glyphs now glow faintly, pulsing with a heartbeat you know is your own. You understand the paradox. Atlantis wasn't a place of science or spirit. It was both. It wasn't destroyed. It withdrew into a pocket of frequency where time doesn't pass. It waits. And now you are the bridge, not a prophet, not a savior. Just a chord struck again. And with that chord comes the knowledge. Others will feel this too. Not all at once. Some will wake from dreams of oceans above deserts. Some will hear music in the silence between train stops. Some will stare at the stars and feel their ribs ache, as if their bones are tuning forks, aching to sing again. And you'll know them, because they'll hum, softly, the same note. The chamber begins to dim. not from loss of energy. From transfer. It's giving its resonance to you. You are now the carrier. The signal. You close your eyes. When you open them again, you're no longer in the chamber. You're back. Your room. Your bed. The fan still hums in the corner. The night sky still hangs beyond your window. Stars soft and watching. But you've changed. The hum remains. Not loud. Just steady. A knowing. A signal. Buried beneath daily noise. Now clear. Atlantis is not behind you. It's beneath you. Within you. Waiting for its song to finish. And you're not done humming. Not yet. You don't fall asleep right away. Instead, you lie there, still listening. Not with your ears, but with something older. Something the ancients once trusted more than instruments. The body as a tuning fork. The soul as a chamber. And now, the silence around you feels less like absence. And more like invitation. The hum isn't fading. It's expanding. You wonder, what else has been humming all this time? Just beneath your awareness. Not devices. Not machines. But places. Structures. Shapes designed not just to shelter, but to remind. You think of the temple ruins half buried. In moss. The towers whose stones ring when tapped. The cathedrals whose domes echo with impossible clarity. Maybe all these places were once part of the same score. One ancient symphony across civilizations, now fractured by time, language, and ego. Maybe that's why we've always rebuilt pyramids. Why every culture, from Egypt to the Mayans, from Mesopotamia to Mars, yes, even Mars, left behind the same silhouette in stone, not because we forgot, but because we remembered, even when we didn't understand what we were remembering. And maybe, just maybe, those shapes weren't built to house gods. They were built to awaken you. You sit up in bed, slowly. The room is quiet, but the frequency continues. You glance at your bookshelf. Every title you once read searching for answers, they now feel like questions. A dusty paperback about Atlantis. A field guide to sacred geometry. A half-read article about cymatics and sound therapy. You realize they were all fragments. Scattered pieces of a map you weren't supposed to assemble with logic, but with resonance. Not everything makes sense yet. And that's okay, because something inside you is no longer searching for proof. It's responding to truth. There's a knock at your thoughts. A memory, uninvited, but welcome. You're a child again, lying on the grass, not looking up at stars. For the first time, you feel that strange ache, not fear, not curiosity, but longing. You didn't know what it was then, but you do now. It was homesickness. Not for a place, but for a frequency. That ache is how the universe whispers to those who still listen. And tonight, you're listening better than you ever have. You walk quietly to the window and open it. The air is cool, still, and somehow harmonic. You imagine Atlantis, not beneath the sea, but beneath every note of silence between the noises of our lives. Not lost, just unheard. Waiting. You hum, soft and slow, just to test the air. And for a moment, nothing happens. Then, a breeze stirs, only lightly, but it feels like a response. You laugh quietly, like someone who just remembered the punchline to a joke told lifetimes ago. Maybe the ancients weren't mysterious. Maybe we've just forgotten how to feel obvious things, like stone that sings dot, like water that listens, like the quiet between stars that says, we are still here. Because here's the truth. Atlantis didn't vanish dot. It resonated too deeply. And we, in our noise, forgot how to hear. But now, you're hearing again. And soon, others will too. One by one across continents and coastlines, deserts and dreams, people will begin to feel that same low hum. And when they do, they'll remember that their purpose was never to dominate, never to conquer, but to tune dot to a line dot, to become part of a song older than memory and deeper than time. And that song? It's just beginning. You return to bed, but the silence now carries shape, like a sculpture made from air, like invisible architecture built from tones long forgotten. You wonder, if Atlantis didn't sink beneath the sea, but beneath perception, then what other wonders have been drowned, not by water, but by noise? You begin to list them in your mind. The Great Pyramid's hidden chamber, still untouched, still humming dot the temples in India, where a whispered chant bounces perfectly across the dome. The Peruvian stone walls, where no blade fits between blocks. But tuning forks vibrate them dot, and yes, the myths of Mars dot the crystalline towers. The frost-covered relics visible only at sunset. The formation near Sidonia that still looks like a face, even after they blurred the satellite images. These weren't coincidences. They were chords played in space, chords left for the sensitive to rediscover. And you are becoming sensitive. You shift your attention inward, not in thought, but in frequency dot there, under your breath, under your bones, anew. Awareness is forming dot. It isn't emotion. It isn't memory dot. It's something closer to echo. You realize some of the most powerful signals never travel through words. They ripple through feeling dot, and suddenly your mind flashes back again. This time, not to childhood, but to that strange dream you once had, the one you dismissed, where you stood in a dark cavern of glowing crystal walls, where a voice not made of sound asked you one question. Do you remember how to hum in color? Back then, it made no sense. Now, it tingles with truth. Hum in color? Maybe the ancients didn't separate the senses like we do. Maybe sound and light and feeling were one thing. Maybe their buildings weren't just stone, but songs frozen. In place, you close your eyes. Not to sleep, but to see dot, and there it is dot the city. Not Atlantis as a cliché of columns and domes, but something more. Alive dot the streets shimmer like quartz. The sky pulses with aurora. The people, not wearing robes, but light itself, move not with footsteps, but with rhythm. You don't feel like you're watching. You feel like you're remembering dot, as if this place was never lost, just layered beneath lifetimes of forgetting. You open your eyes again. Your room is the same, but you are different. You've been to Atlantis now, not through travel, but through resonance, and you begin to grasp something wild, something radical, that maybe every mystery, every myth, every monument isn't meant to be solved, that it's meant to be felt. And Atlantis? It was never a place on the map. Dot it was. A frequency. A chord played perfectly, once, and now echoing quietly in the bones of dreamers dot in you. And the only way back is not to dig, or dive, or decipher, but to hum, to listen, to remember dot, because when enough of us do, Atlantis won't need to rise, dot. It will return through us, dot, and the moment that happens, the earth will hum differently. The stars will tilt just slightly, and the long-lost song will begin again. Not on the airwaves, but in the quiet between breaths. You lie there motionless, but not in sleep. You are attuned now. Your breath shallow but steady. Your thoughts quiet like ripples across a still pond. You're not drifting. You're listening. And there, faintly like a memory trying to form before you wake, you hear it. A tone, not a note, not a melody, but a presence. Like something has recognized you, dot, and responded, dot, it's the frequency beneath Atlantis. And it's calling you home. Not because you are special, not because you are chosen, but because you are open. You understand now why the ancients carved spirals into stone, why they aligned megaliths with stars, why myths began with music and ended in silence. Because silence isn't empty, dot, it's full of memory, dot, and that memory is beginning to awaken. You sit up slowly, not in your bed, not anymore, but in a domed chamber made of polished basalt, dot, no windows, no doors, just you, and the sound, a hum, deep and low, emanating from beneath your feet. You're barefoot, but you don't feel cold. You feel connected, dot, the stone isn't stone. It's resonant, dot, it's speaking to your bones. Not in language, but in tone. You place your palm on the floor. It pulses once, like a heartbeat, and suddenly the chamber fills with color. Not from lamps, not from light, from tone, dot, every frequency becomes hue. Every hum, a wave of pigment brushing the walls, dancing around you like liquid starlight. You realize Atlantis was never about technology, dot, it was about harmony, dot, its power didn't come from machines, but from coherence, dot. Its builders understood something we've forgotten, that the universe doesn't respond to domination. It responds to resonance, dot, and those who remember how to resonate reshape reality. That's why it was hidden, not to be secret, but to be safe, because harmony can't be forced. It can only be invited, dot, and you have been invited. You close your eyes again, not to escape, but to align. You hum softly. At first, it's just air, but then something clicks. The chamber responds, dot, it glows. It vibrates, dot, not loudly, gently, dot, like the smile of a friend you've missed for lifetimes. You understand now why the tower crumbled at Babel, why the music stopped in Mars, why the pyramids closed their mouths. We forgot the tone. We shouted instead of HUMMED, dot. But now the tuning begins again. And the more of you who remember, who hum back, the closer we come, dot, to the reawakening, dot, to the rejoining, dot, to the moment when the veil lifts, not from the eyes, but from the soul. And Atlantis will not rise from the sea, dot, it will rise from within, because the lost frequency isn't under sand, or stone, or stars, dot, it's under your skin, and it's waiting for one thing, not proof, not permission, dot, just your voice, dot, so softly, dot, even if no one else hears it, even if you think it's silly, because something will hear, and it will remember you. You don't remember lying back down. You don't remember the chamber dissolving, the light fading, or the floor becoming mattress again. But here you are, breath calm, blanket tucked under your chin, eyes open just enough to see the familiar shadows on your ceiling, And yet, everything feels different, but not in some dramatic, cinematic way. There are no glowing marks on your skin, no ancient symbols in your palm. But inside, something is humming. You roll onto your side, and the pillow cradles your ear like a seashell. But instead of ocean waves, you swear you can hear stone shifting, slow, deliberate, like a lock turning after centuries of waiting, not in the world. In you think back to those strange architectural coincidences you used. To scroll past online. Why did pyramids in Egypt, Cambodia, and South America align with constellations they shouldn't have seen? Why do ancient temples echo at perfect resonance intervals, designed not for amplification, but attunement? Why did early languages sound more like song than speech? And why, no matter the continent or culture, do so many origin myths begin with sound? It's as if the first builders of civilization weren't just architects, they were composers. Composing not monuments, but memory. Memory embedded in stone now. That memory is stirring. You pull the blanket up closer, not out of fear, but reverence, because you feel it, not in your ears, not in your mind, but in your bones. You're being remembered back. By something older than cities, older than stars, older than even the silence between them. Somewhere, far below the crust of Atlantis, or what we called Atlantis, there is no treasure chest, no glowing artifact, no ancient machine waiting to be activated. There is only a tone, low, pure, endless. The tone that once connected mind and matter, spirit and cell, memory and sound. The one we've almost forgotten. Almost, but not quite. Because now, you remember just enough to seek it, to hear it, to be it. You picture yourself not as a person in a bed, but as a tuning fork, a bridge between frequencies, a silent song that's finally found its chorus again. You aren't alone in this. Somewhere, in a different bed, a different time zone, beneath a different sky, someone else is stirring too. And maybe they're not thinking about pyramids, or Atlantis, or cosmic hums. Maybe they just feel a strange calm, a comfort they can't name, a pressure lifted, a whisper returned. But that's how it begins. Not with evidence. With echo. With resonance. With one person humming in the dark, and another, somewhere far away, humming back. So, you don't need to find Atlantis. You are Atlantis. The memory. The return now. Now hum again. Even softer this time. Not to summon, not to search. Just to remember. Because something ancient is listening. And it has missed you more than you'll ever know. You wake, or maybe you never truly slept. The world is still, but no longer silent. Because now, the silence carries texture. It's no longer just the absence of noise. It's a canvas, stretched taut with memory, awaiting the brushstroke. Of thought, the ripple of a single breath. You shift slightly in your bed, and the rustle of your blanket feels louder, clearer, almost ceremonial. As if you've entered a space where even the smallest sound matters. And maybe it does. Because tonight wasn't just a story. It wasn't just myth or metaphor. It was an alignment, a tuning. You were the instrument. Atlantis, the forgotten note. And the story? The bow drawn gently across your strings. But this feeling that remains? It's more than resonance. It's recognition of something you've always known but never had words for. You remember the idea of lost civilizations, but now the phrase feels small, like calling a cathedral a nice roof, or a symphony some noise. No, what was lost wasn't just a place. It was a state of being, a frequency of consciousness where people didn't just observe the stars, they listened to them. Where cities weren't built to conquer nature or to remember it. Where sound was sacred, geometry was prayer, and memory was stored in shape, not just story. You think of the glyphs, the spirals, the impossible alignments. You remember how archaeologists dismissed them as decorative, or coincidental, or unimportant. But deep down, we all knew better. Because the truth is, we felt this pull before. When a certain chord makes your skin tingle. When a place feels familiar before you've even been. When silence suddenly feels full, as if something ancient just walked by you, unseen but not unnoticed. That's not imagination, that's recall. You are not a receiver, you're a recording. A vessel of tones, of patterns, of harmonic memory. Atlantis was never drowned. It was downloaded into you, into all of us. And now with each breath, each story, each quiet listening, it re-emerges, not in ocean ruins, not in satellites, but in the pause between thoughts, the hum behind your heartbeat, the stars behind your eyelids. And suddenly, you understand why pyramids endure, why myths survive, why people keep searching for something they can't name. Because some truths aren't meant to be found, they're meant to be remembered. And now, you are remembering, softly, completely, without fear, without needing proof, only the quiet thrill of recognition. You're not falling asleep. You're falling back into something older, into yourself, into the chord that's been waiting, not to be sung, but to be heard. And you're finally listening. The moment has no shape, no color, no language. And yet, it's the clearest thing you've ever known. You aren't dreaming anymore. You're remembering. And in that memory, something ancient is waking up with you. It doesn't come with thunder, or lights, or an angelic choir. It comes as stillness, a stillness so complete, it's musical. You lie there, your chest rising and falling like a tide, and you finally realize you've crossed something. Not a threshold of time, but of tuning, like a string that's finally reached the right tension. The note it was made to play, because you are the instrument. And the frequency? It's not outside. It's within. You are not a historian. You are not an explorer. You are the memory itself. You are Atlantis. Not as a continent, but as a condition, a vibration, a lost octave of being. You remember now that Atlantis was not sunk. It was sealed, like a harmonic chamber waiting for the right tone. And only those who remembered how to feel the silence could unlock it again. And tonight you did. You feel it in your bones. That tremble just under your ribs. That glow just behind your eyes. A knowing, a returning. Not with facts, not with maps, but with resonance. And as your breath slows, you hear it one more time, the hum, the lost frequency beneath Atlantis. Not a sound you hear with your ears, but one you remember with your soul. It's there. In the stillness, in the dark. In the parts of you that science forgot, but story remembered. And it's saying, you have returned. And we have always been waiting. So now, dear listener, as we come gently to the end of tonight's story, take a moment to let the silence wrap around you like a soft blanket. Let the dust settle. Let the hum fade, not into nothingness, but into you. If something tonight stirred a memory in you, a feeling you can't quite name but don't want to lose, please take a second to tell me in the comments. Where are you listening from? What time is it for you? Who else is awake right now, lying beneath the same stars, feeling that same gentle pull from the ancient world? Let's remember together. And if you found peace here, a little wonder, a little calm, maybe even a little sleep, consider subscribing to the Night Histories. This quiet corner of the internet is made for you, for the dreamers, the historians of the soul, the stargazers who still believe that maybe, just maybe, we're not alone in our remembering. There are more stories waiting tales of hidden cities, and forgotten songs, and whispers buried beneath stone and sky. But tonight, let's let this one linger a little longer. Let your thoughts drift like moonlight over still water. Let the memory settle deeper. Let the story echo through you, gently, until even your bones hum with it. You're safe now. You're exactly where you need to be. You're not alone. You never were, so close your eyes. Let the last images dissolve softly. The glowing pyramid, the red dust, the ancient cord. And as sleep welcomes you like an old friend, carry this truth with you. You are the residence. You are the remembering. And the stars have always been singing just for you. Good night. And may your dreams be full of stars.